All right, Curt, here we go.
I'm nervous.
There you go, Curt. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Manufacturing E-Commerce Success Series. I'm your co-host, Damon Postolka. Man, do we have a show for you today. Special guest.
Man.
Curt and I are just can't even hardly speak this morning. You can tell from that the pause at the beginning. We don't know what's going on here. We forgot where we're at and everything. We've only done this like 3 times now, I think. But Curt, take it away. So happy to see everyone. Drop the comments. Sorry.
I'm like just total starstruck right now. Sorry, I'm gonna get my composure together. Ready? All right, here we go. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to this amazing, incredible show. We're at the end of January already.
Can you believe it? Wow.
Damon, look at this lineup we've had. Like we were just talking baseball. Look at this lineup. We had Kerry Smith, CEO, founder of Big Ass Fans. We have Scotty O, the editor-in-chief of Inc. magazine. We have our soul sister, Allison DeFord, last week. And today, are you guys sitting down? Are you sitting down for this? Ready here, Amy, I'm going to do it. I'm just ripping off the Band-Aid, right? Amy Blashka. How'd I do? Did I do all right? Amy Blashka is with us today. Amy, happy Friday. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that lead up. I'm feeling a little pressure to kind of perform now, but excited to be here.
This is I am so, oh my gosh, Amy. So I have to admit, it's social media. So it's not stalking if you follow people on social media, right? It's just fans, we're followers. I've been following Amy for years on Twitter, believe it or not. So I took a little hiatus on LinkedIn for a few years, and I'm just kind of hanging out on Twitter. Amy, in this wonderful office that she's in, used to do all these videos. Like she would, right? Amy, right? She would do all these videos, and I'm like, man, she is just so cool. She is so inspiring, so captivating. She is a Forbes contributor. She is a ghostwriter. Yes, this is a real thing, according to Amy. You are a content machine. So, Amy, let's just dig into things, man. We just have so much to cover today. I'm going to stop chatting. Share a little bit your background. Like, hi, I know UC San Diego. When you're off at college, did you realize you're going to be such a content creating machine? Share a little bit about how'd you get this journey started?
No, I don't think anyone thinks that. But when I went to school, I graduated with a film and media degree, thinking I would be a filmmaker. The idea of working with a group of people collaboratively to tell a story and bring something to life, that's really meaningful to me. That idea of taking something, just an idea, and seeing it blossom and come to fruition. So it seemed like a natural fit, and I consider myself a creative person. So, but shockingly, after I graduated, I could not find a job as a filmmaker, much to my parents' chagrin. So I was like, oh, okay, what else? So I did I'm like, okay, well, what is creative adjacent? Like, what is, what could I be doing, whatever. And I landed a job in a very tiny little kind of marketing firm. And I say tiny, I mean, there were 2 co-founders, 2 women, and me. So the beauty of that is that when there are not a lot of people, you do a lot of things, right? So I had exposure to, I was doing marketing, I was doing advertising. They had me writing stuff because my minor had been communications, and I've always loved to write. And in fact, in school, I was going back and forth, vacillating between, do I writing is the degree, or, should I do the film? And I went back and forth. And I even had, in a creative writing class I had a professor pull me aside after class and say, Amy, I really think you should consider changing your major. And I was like, no, whatever. She knew better than I did at the time. But anyway, I worked in that small firm down in San Diego. And then I moved up back to the Bay Area where I had grown up and where I live today. And I worked in advertising in a big firm called Young and Rubicam. And it was like, oh, this is really cool. I love that. And worked around different things, just all sort of in that same arena. And then I went and worked at our sister company called Landor Associates, which was a branding firm. And this is forever ago, right? I'm no spring chicken. So I'm like, branding, what is that? And I'm like, oh, this is something I can get behind, because it was really about every touch point, right? Visual, verbal, how you present yourself to the world. And when I say you, I'm talking specifically, I was working with companies and with brands, right? So it would be, products and different things. The concept is still the same. It's the way that you present yourself, the way you're positioned, the way you are trying to attract your ideal customer. What do they think about you? And you have the chance to shape that through a visual means and through a verbal means. So I loved that. And I did that, and also at another firm similar. And then I had our first daughter. We have two. And, before I was traveling all over the country. These are the days pre 9/11, right? So you could would drive to SFO, take a day trip to Minneapolis, meet with the client, get on that 3:30 flight to get back to SFO and that was like a date. It was crazy. But I knew I couldn't do that after we had kids. So I had our oldest daughter, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm on maternity leave. I decided not to come back. Nobody believed that I would be a stay-at-home mom, which I did. I did for a while. And then both my daughter and I needed to talk to people our own age. We decided, okay, it's time for mama to find something. And because I was a mom, I was like, okay, I know I can't do the travel schedule. Is there something close? And you know what? It's been forever since I've interviewed. So my best friend's husband was the chairman of a board of this thing called a Convention and Visitors Bureau, which I'm like, tourism, travel, what is that? Okay, well, he goes, oh, Amy, he's like, the CEO just left, and he was like, oh, and it was kind of under bad circumstances, but you should interview for this. And I was thinking, all right, I've never done it, but I'll just put myself out there. Right. I'll just see. I'm thinking nothing will come of this other than some experience and whatever. Well, I ended up getting the job offered to me, and I took a leap of faith and went, you know what? I can do this. And one of the reasons why, and people go, well, that's completely different. The common thread that strings it all together was this power of storytelling, right? And it wasn't, I wasn't selling beer or a theme park. It was a destination, right? Same principles of branding. It's destination branding. It's right. Doing that. And again, working with the team. So I was the CEO, building this team, building it up, doing all these things. And so it appealed in that way. But I did that for about a decade. And I say I stayed in that industry forever because it's hospitality. It's about service. It's good people, right? And that was very appealing to me. Right. But the longer I worked there, the farther I got from sort of what I call creative Amy, because, great, I could put together a budget, I could secure funding, I could do this, we could do whatever. I was great at it. But I was dying inside because there was no creative aspect to it. And I say creative meaning actually me writing something out or creating something. So I left there. I consulted for a while. It was very low hanging fruit to be able to do this. But I was like, what am I going to do? And there got to a point where I'm like, yeah, I can't keep doing this anymore. And at the urging of a good friend who's a writer, he's like, Amy, you're a writer. You need to write. And I think that turning point was me just accepting and actually calling myself, I have no problem doing that today, but I'm like, I am a writer, and actually saying it out loud and believing it and then just doing it. So, that was a long nonlinear career journey, but I will tell you, like most things, all of that sort of experience informed who I am today, how I view the world, how I move through the world, and what I write about. So I say none of it was wasted. It was all good, and it made me who I am today.
Man, wow. Yeah. Okay, this so good. All right, so start out, out of college, took a little career turn. This professor says, maybe you should take a little change of pace here, and that the writing thing might not work out for you so well. Love to see that professor today, right?
No, she was the one who said you should do it.
Oh, should do it. My bad.
No, but I tell you, I had my AP English teacher in high school laughed at me. I wrote something, it was a creative assignment, and he read it out loud to the class and laughed at me. And now I was mortified. So I was not a writer.
Yeah.
How you suck. So stop doing that.
So, and Amy, when you were doing branding, I know you've worked with major companies, major Fortune 500 companies, like you said, flying all over the country. I think I saw Clorox and some other big brands that you worked with in the past. It sounds like the nonprofit was a perfect fit for a young mom, building out your career and kind of juggling those different roles, what have you. So let's talk about 2011. Okay, so 2011, when you leave this CEO, and again, as CEO, you could probably, if your board loves you, you love your board, you love your you didn't have a passion. That was what was missing. Talk about what was that leap of faith? What did that feel like jumping into entrepreneurship when big corporate, nonprofit? What did that feel like kind of going over the ledge on entrepreneurship?
Well, it was scary, right?
Yeah.
But it was one of these things, like you look at it one of two ways. It's frightening, but it's also exciting. And what I learned about me is that I really value my freedom and autonomy. So if I'm going to make it, it's up to me. And that's, when I figured out that actually I could deliver on that promise to myself, it was hugely empowering. Right. So whether I was still consulting and doing the tourism things, but then when I, finally kind of switched over to a strategic writing practice, that was like, hey, you know what? I mean, so much of, what we do, we wait for someone else to give us permission, and we don't need to. You just do it. Start doing it. And, you don't have to wait. Whatever it is, just start doing it, because stop talking about it, when something happens. Present tense, you are a writer or you are an accountant or whatever you want to be, you are, just do it. And I think that there's so much fear around that prevents us from really going after what we want. We blame it on external forces, right? Oh, well, it's a pandemic or my boss sucks or, whatever. But it's always internal, right? It's always your own limiting beliefs that it comes down to, or somebody else's, like that horrible English teacher I had that circling in my brain thinking, believing that was truth. And it's like, it's not. You make your own truth. You go out there and do your thing.
And the awesome thing is, like, your business, you label it now as so you are a SaaS company, if I'm not mistaken, right? Stories as a service, a little spin on SaaS, right? So I absolutely love that. So stories as a service and delivering powerful stories as a service. And I know you're huge, guys. As a matter of fact, you have to go to Amy's website. We have all sorts of cover today. You have to check out Amy's website. Please connect with her here on LinkedIn, of course. But Amy, you talk about your why, right? Right on, you have an awesome bio on your website. As a matter of fact, Amy, she has like 2 different ones. She's like, hey, if you want my casual, kind of my just Amy one, and then if you want my more serious one, you click here, you get her serious one. But you talk about your why, Amy. Talk about your why and why inspiration is so important to you when delivering this passion.
So my why, a la Simon Sinek, right? Like what is kind of grounds me and what I keep coming back to is inspiring transformation. Nice. So I get so much satisfaction out of being an active participant in any sort of transformation. Now, I mean, this can be literally like I'm a big like home improvement person. I'm very handy, right? I can change a light bulb. I can paint this. I can do that. Not just a light bulb, but I can like put a new light fixture in, right? I can do the things. I don't do plumbing, but I mean, I do all these other things. And I think part of that is that transformation process. I have the vision to see what's possible. I'm very much about potential and seeing kind of the best in others. I mean, that comes back to that branding or whatever. It's like, there are often times that I'm talking to someone and they don't realize sort of that like special sort of their little nugget of brilliance. I'm like, this, right? This is what, and they're like, what? I think we tend to discount things that come very easily to us and natural, thinking, oh, everybody can do that. That's not very special. It's like, no, it's not. It's a special thing. So, I mean, that transformation is so powerful, right? I mean, in somebody's life, I've gone through several of them, so I'm a big proponent of that. But when I can be an active participant in one of those, something that I wrote helps inspire someone to make a positive change. It gives them that little encouraging nudge. I mean, the highest compliment you could give me, or one of them, is, your words helped me. You inspired me to do something. And I've been fortunate to be on the receiving end of those several times. Often they'll come from somebody in a private message or an email that I didn't even know was listening, right? Because that's the thing about our stories. And people say, it's not very important. Who cares? Whatever. But someone is always listening. Someone's always watching. You don't know how your words will impact somebody else. And I guarantee they will always, always land with at least one person and probably more. So it's really important to share kind of our journeys and our perspectives and our things. Somebody out there wishes they were where you are right now, right? Yeah. So you can help them. And so that idea of inspiring transformation for me is central to my core. It's why I do what I do. It's why I'm addicted to HGTV. It's why, it's really all about sort of the possibilities and living in that world and very future focused on what could be. So
That just makes me laugh because my wife would if she could delete HD and Discovery and the Learning Channel, she would delete them off because that's all I want to watch. It's so funny.
So, all right. So this is a perfect segue. So you just celebrated
Yeah.
your 10-year anniversary of entrepreneurship last year. And so
Rocking.
again, when you took that leap of faith and, you're like, who knows what you're getting into? That's what entrepreneurship is. It's all about hope. And that's why, like, Damon and I, we love working with entrepreneurs. I've never met an entrepreneur that went into business planning to fail. They are all, half full, super optimistic, sometimes maybe a little, we're all a little delusional at times. Yeah. But what I want to talk about is like your journey over the past 10 years. Okay. And we're going to take a deep dive into you write for Forbes, 5 articles a month. Damon,
wow.
a month.
Whew.
12 months a year. That's 60 articles a year. She's been doing it since 2018. So that's just in Forbes. Yeah. She has a new newsletter called Momentum. We're going to talk about that. She has another newsletter, Illuminate Me. So let's talk about, like, as you started putting out your content 10 years ago, like, what was going on then when you first started, and how did you evolve as a content creator, ghostwriter? Like, what's been your evolution to get here?
When LinkedIn, I'm old enough to remember that LinkedIn didn't always allow everyone to just publish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was, in the beginning, they had their influencers, right? These titans of industries and people. And so we'd go on, they just like read things about it. But then they opened it up. I want to say it was, I don't know. It was a while back, and they opened it up. And when they did, to go to the general public, I was like, okay, well, why not? Just put it out there. And, this is like nobody else is doing it, whatever, you do it. And what happened was I found that when I started sharing my ideas and content and different things, I kind of found my tribe. You find other people that resonate with what you're saying, and made some very good friends that I would meet in person much later. But, it's that idea of like, okay, there's a community online here, and there's an audience, there's somebody, and these are people not necessarily that became my clients, but it's that, become sort of that group of people that are like, okay, and I like the way you think. I like the way you move through the world. So, when you have that sort of feedback and you find that, okay, so what I'm saying isn't like boring to everyone or whatever, you're at least I was sort of encouraged to do more and put out more. And in the beginning, it wasn't like I'm today. Today I publish content on LinkedIn and other platforms Monday through Friday, right? And then with my newsletter, some other things too, but I'm very consistent in doing that. But in the beginning, you kind of dip your toe in and go, okay, yeah. Everyone was trying to find their way. There wasn't even this idea of like, oh, the creator economy or anything like that. So I just kept going and doing it more frequently. And, when you do something again and again, that practice, getting in the reps, you're going to get better at it. And It's not, my level of writing got better, I would like to think. But it was also that I just, was smarter about like, okay, not just throwing out any whimsical idea, but being very intentional about it and having sort of this framework and structure of like, okay, if somebody cares, I have to say, let it be meaningful. And I want it to be centered around some things that matter most to me, rather than just be a shotgun approach. Like, yeah, I'm going to, not that I do this, but I'm going to talk about crypto, or I'm going to talk about this popsicle, or I'm going to talk about this, to make it really more focused and niche. And as I was doing that, my writing business also started wide and kind of, narrowed down, because when you're first starting out as an entrepreneur, I mean, let's be honest, you just like, I need to make money. I need to like have some income. And I'm a writer. So and there's a million different types of writers, right? It's like, oh, Amy, can you write my web copy? Can you write this thing? Whatever. So I took on a lot of projects that, today I would decline. Right. But I think part of that is putting yourself out there, trying it, doing it. And again, even if you're good at something, it doesn't mean that that's kind of what's going to be most meaningful to you or be the highest and best use of your talents. So as I went through this process and had different types of clients and different kinds of assignments, kind of narrowed the focus when, given my history of storytelling, given my, experience in branding people or places and products and companies, would it make most sense to focus on individuals? Because that's where I have this ability to kind of talk to somebody and pull out from them kind of the best. and help them find the clarity and help them find sort of, what are you really trying to say? And so we'd have conversations, and it would be, they'd talk and talk and talk and talk. And I'd say, so do you mean this? And I'm like, oh, yes, yes. So a lot of what I figured out that comes naturally to me is helping other people find their clarity and kind of what matters most to them, and pulling it out and then helping them stay organized in that framework to deliver it in a way that will be meaningful to their intended audiences. So you start broad, you go niche. And now I'm a social media ghostwriter, which means that I'm writing updates and articles for my leaders. And they are typically CXOs and founders, that entrepreneurial mindset where they know it's like, you know what, it's important for me to put my thought leadership out there to let people know how I think, either because I'm trying to attract talent or partners or investors or whatever, but I don't have the time or I don't have the wherewithal. It'll take me too long. I just need a partner, a thinking partner that I can talk to weekly and help me get stuff out. And so that sort of became the evolution of what I do. So positioning them for success and then keeping them on track, pulling in sometimes, entrepreneurs, included, lots of great ideas, right?
Yeah.
That's terrific, but we need to keep you reined in and like, what's your goal? What do you want? And then I can help you kind of stay on track.
Man. Okay.
Yeah.
There was
That's,
so much that we need to uncover.
Yeah.
So let's all right. One of our favorite lines, Damon, niching down, right?
Yes.
We preach niche down, niche down, niche down. And I like to say niche down till it hurts, right? Niche down till it hurts. But then to finish off that sentence, niche down till it hurts so good. So like, when you started your business, Amy, it hurts to say, no, Mr. or Mrs. Entrepreneur, that's not a good fit, because, you need that revenue, need those dollars, so on and so forth. So God bless it that you've reached this point. You dropped the word clarity a couple of times. I'd like to run right into your trifecta, if you don't mind. So let's just take it away. What is your trifecta? And let me just say this super quick. Okay. So when you take, again, small company, brand, big corporate, branding guru, you become a CEO in a nonprofit, leap of faith in entrepreneurship. So, you've really covered different gamuts through your career. You've seen all different walks of life. And when you started out in 2011, who knows what's ahead, right? We just don't know what's ahead. And you just became a relentless machine on content, focus, and practicing what you preach on niching down. And so as you share your trifecta, I'd like to talk a little bit about your journey on like how you felt you could see yourself getting better and practicing what you're preaching and how you brought that to your clients.
Yeah. Okay. So I call it my power trifecta.
Yep.
And it includes clarity, consistency, and discipline. So no matter what you're doing, whether it's like deciding what to write, content, your career, your life, what you want to do, if you don't have clarity, it's going to have a really difficult time reaching your goal, right? You need to know, like, what do you want, right? It sounds like such a simple question, but I will tell you, if I asked anybody, what do you want? Be like, and it's not like, oh, what do you want for lunch? Like, what do you want? People have to think about this, because oftentimes they'll say something that's very superficial and it's like, yeah, that's not what you want. What do you really want? And so when you get to that point where you have clarity, and I tell that I won't work with someone until they have that clarity, because it's impossible. We'll go round and round in circles and you're never going to find it. It's like, what do you want? So clarity is super important, because once you know what you want, then you can devise a plan to get there, right? And if you know what you want, you'll also know, well, does this get me there, or does this take me away from it? So it's really important to have both sides of that. For me, it became very clear, no pun intended, that it's like, I don't want to, and I want to just focus on, social media ghostwriting. I want to have sort of this focus. I want to work with individuals. I don't want to do content for companies. I'm better served one-on-one with a leader, and that's everything I do. Even my Forbes articles are very much focused on an individual. What can you do to grow as a leader? What can you do to better yourself? Because again, that's inspiring transformation, right? That's coming back to my why. So having that clarity and having the alignment of what you're all about will make your life infinitely easier, right? So, and saying no becomes easier too, when you know, this is what I want, right? And this does that. Does that help? No. Oh, so, and there's a nice way to say
makes it easy.
I can say no now because I've gotten to a point where I've really kind of focused and consistently done this. In the beginning, it was much more difficult to say no to things because you're trying to find your way. But yeah. So that's clarity. consistency, man, oh man, this is the most unsexy but effective thing there is. Nobody wants to hear it because everybody wants a quick fix. Everybody wants the shortcut. Everybody wants to, how do I trick the algorithm, Amy? You don't. I'm sorry. And if you're not willing to put the work in, you probably won't get the results. You can ask any entrepreneur. They will tell you, right? There's many, many, many years. If there's work, it's hard work is the shortcut, right? Consistency pays dividends. And I will tell you, as a social media ghostwriter, I can't share because of confidentiality. I can't share when someone says, "Oh, Amy, share me, what have you done for other people?" I can't.
Yeah.
If you're on LinkedIn, you've seen all my work for my clients, right? But you don't know, and I won't do that. So it's really important for me to practice what I preach to my clients and have the consistency. So why does Amy write 5 articles a month for Forbes consistently since she started becoming a contributor? Why does she put out content Monday through Friday? Why does she do 2 weekly newsletters now? Because consistency is the way. And if I didn't do it, who wants to hire a writer who talks this way and doesn't do it herself? I mean, it seems ridiculous, right? So you need to have that consistency. And then discipline, right? Discipline is, yes, it's showing up even when you don't feel like it, right? That's part of it. But the other part of discipline, at least in terms of content and writing, is staying in your lane. Now, what I like to do with my clients is say, what are the 3 buckets, right, for your thought leadership? And, they can be broad, like leadership, right? That's a pretty broad sort of bucket. But what, I don't want is that have all of these ideas where I want to talk about this or I want to talk about that. It's like, okay, does it align and fit in one of those buckets? No. Like, okay, then you probably shouldn't put it out there. Or I'm not going to write it for you. I'm advising you against that because you want to be intentional with your messaging. You want to be intentional with your content. If we're talking about thought leadership and if you're working with me as your social media ghostwriter, that's what it's about. I am going to say, okay, what do you want? What are your 3 buckets? And then, okay, let's talk about how you move through the world and what your experiences and stories, how do they fit into those 3 buckets? And that will become your content because you can decide those buckets, right? I mean, it's not like somebody puts a label on your head. No, you can only talk about this, but you need to have the discipline to stay in those things if you want other people to come to associate you with those things, right? So the clarity, consistency, and discipline helps me personally because it's on my whiteboard. I preach it, right, till I'm blue in the face. But it's like whenever I've had issues, it's because probably I'm veering too far from one of those 3 things of my power trifecta. And I tell my clients the same thing.
That's incredible. It is because, man, I tell you what, the consistency part of this is where people fall down. And it's just because I don't care if you're building a business, you're out building a manufacturing business, you're building a software company or a personal brand. You got to show up and you got to do it. And Gail says it well, Gail Robertson, she always talks about showing up, and it's so key just to be there and do it. And nobody got there. I mean, I'm just going to ask you one question. How many people do you know that really got where they are that you go, wow, they're well-known or a leader in their field that wasn't consistent, wasn't showing up? How many people do you really know like that?
You don't.
There we go.
If there's somebody who finds fame for something that isn't consistency based, it's pretty short-lived. Or it's okay, you're famous for being famous.
Maybe the Kardashians. I don't know about, but that's maybe one person, one group that comes. No, I'm just saying. So anyway, Amy, all right, guys, let's just recap this again. If you're cutting out, I know we're coming. Man, we're going to be here all day. No, I'm just we have so much to uncover. So I know it's top of the hour. If you're leaving, please connect with Amy. Please follow her. She has 2 incredible newsletters. One here on LinkedIn, one on her website. So again, if you guys are cutting out, have an awesome weekend. But please stick with us because we have so much more to cover. Amy, I just want so for kids at home taking notes, all the cool kids are here today, by the way.
Yep.
Hi, cool kids.
Number 1, clarity. Number 2, consistency. Number 3, discipline. You're putting out an enormous amount of content. We have folks that are manufacturers. We have folks that are supporting manufacturers. We work with manufacturing extension partnerships. Diane, if you're there, our TAC program, right? So there's all these different agencies out there, and they're like, sometimes they get discouraged, Amy, where they're like, geez, I'm doing this once a week, or I'm putting this out. Were there times, share a little bit, were there times where you're like, man, is like, I'm putting all this content out, is this worth it? And I know as an interviewer, I read somewhere, don't ask 2 questions. I'm going to break that rule. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Was there a time where you're like, is this really working? And can you slide in? Was there a moment of like an aha or a tipping point of like, I'm really building a tribe. Like and you are so humble, so modest. I don't know if you want to consider comfortable calling yourself an influencer. I feel you're an influencer. You've had an enormous positive influence on me from a distance for years. Was there a point where you're like, is this working? And did it slide into like when was that tipping point of like, I think I'm onto something?
So I think there's a couple things here. So I will tell you, even though I am like comfortable in calling myself with authority, like I'm a writer, I'm human. I go through bouts of imposter syndrome still today. Like, who cares what I have to say? God, what I wrote was a kind of a piece of garbage, It's like, no one's going to love that. And the truth is, not everything will be a home run, right? When you're putting out, when you're talking huge numbers of things, you can't possibly have everything be like stellar, right? So there's going to be a range. There's going to be some things that, take off. And what happens is that, sometimes I'll write something super fast, nothing, not very, whatever. It's something. And for whatever reason, that hits.
Blows up.
Right? And then I'll spend a ton of time on an article or something, and it just sort of falls flat. So you never really know. And I think you need to be comfortable with the fact that it's like, again, coming back to just kind of consistently putting something out there. Right. I think for me, when I'm feeling sort of crappy, or I'm feeling kind of like, I'm all right. I mean, I'm one of a bajillion content creators, right? And it's not that I need this to kind of keep doing it, because I disciplined enough to kind of keep showing up and doing what I do. But I will tell you, when I get a comment, or more likely a private message that somebody sends something to me and says, Amy, wow, I loved your article, or your, update, or whatever I put out there, some piece of content, it really, it struck me as something, and it means the world to me. And they share a little bit of their own story and what they're going through. And, you inspired me to make a change, or to finally do something I had been hemming and hawing on. I mean, that is what keeps me going. That is what really fuels my, like, okay, so you said something that I don't consider myself an influencer. And by the way, anyone who calls himself an expert or a guru or an influencer, that's something bestowed upon you. That's not self-appointed. I mean, that's my own little pet peeve. It's like, come on.
So
but I mean, I would rather be someone who has a massive impact, right?
Yes.
That's about positively impacting the world and people through my words. That's, what I want to do. Then, I'm an influencer, right? I mean, because that term, I think there's good intent with that term, but it's so bandied about now that it becomes, it's lost some of its luster for me. I appreciate if somebody says that I've influenced them, or in some positive way, that's amazing, but my aim is always to have and leave a positive impact, right? More about the legacy than it is about, hey, aren't I great? Because, if I can inspire someone else to take action, then I've done my job.
Yeah. And you definitely do that. And people just adore you. And again, I appreciate your humility, but when you look at your posts, and again, guys, follow Amy, she posts 5 days a week. And Amy, when you follow your posts, you are a content machine. So I'd love to know how you pull it off. Obviously you never sleep, but I want to share some of the headlines. I feel like you have truly mastered your craft. Number one, at the content. Number two, at resonating and connecting. And again, I'm speaking firsthand. I know we goof around a lot, but like, I've been following you for years, I just connected this 2 months ago. So for years, been like following your videos, your content, your articles, your Forbes articles. I see all the love that you get on your posts. We mentioned some names, David Breyer and a bunch of other, I won't use that word influencers, but other positive folks on LinkedIn. You really have created a nice following, a nice community. It's a credit to you of just that positive energy that you put out. But let me just share a couple of your headlines here. 5 best people to add to your inner circle and 3 people to kick out. So, and I'm hoping I'm not
good.
I'm hoping I'm not one of those 3.
Yeah.
3
That's
best
awesome.
ways to create, build, and maintain career momentum. I want to talk about momentum in 1 second. Write a letter to your future self. 4 questions that gauge your level of intellectual humility. Damon, you and I were just talking last week about our friend Wayne Dyer, the famous Wayne Dyer, and he used the term radical humility. I love that you have intellectual humility. Let's talk about this real quick, Amy.
Okay.
That letter to your future self. I love that article. The comments were just off the charts. It just really resonated. Share with folks that missed that article. What is this letter to your future self?
So, the idea of writing a letter to your future self, there's a couple things, right around, the holidays, everyone makes resolutions and New Year's things. And I've never been big on that. And science shows that, even with the best intentions, people fall short by, mid-February, right? And then you end up feeling crappy. It's like, who wants that? Why do you keep putting yourself through that cycle? Yep. So the idea of writing a letter to your future self, there's part visualization. It's sort of the potential and possibilities. So you write a letter that's like, dear Amy, and this is me to Amy a year from now, 5 years, you can decide, right? The beauty of that. And what you do is you write it as if you've already accomplished all those things that you want to accomplish, right? So it's already happened, and you can date it, like say it's a year from today. So, and I'm reading this, and you have that. And I think the exercise itself of going through and talking in the present tense or the, past, you've done this, congratulations, you wrote a book, you got a new job, you did whatever you did, and you can have multiple things, but did that. It's very empowering. It's uplifting. And then I'm really big on a tangible, right? So I've done this, and I literally have one kind of stuck, you can't off camera behind my computer here, just because I feel like when it's there, it's that visual reminder of like, okay, yeah. And because I'm a very future focused person, always about what's possible, what's potential, for me, that really works. And I think for other folks, if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling sort of like, this is a way that you can put those sort of your goals and everything into a format and go through that exercise, writing things out to say, okay, this. And then, what's really fun is a year from writing that letter, you go back and revisit it. And oftentimes what happens is, even if you didn't accomplish exactly what you thought it would be, you've done so much, you can congratulate yourself. You can kind of, oh, I said I was going to do this, but wow, I did this. Or, and many people right now in the last several years have pivoted, right? Because of COVID, because of different things, they've had to be adaptable and do this. So it's highly likely that maybe something shifted, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means you did. And that way you can then celebrate that progress, whether you followed it to a T, which is rare, or, something else happened instead that's also worth kind of celebrating. So I think it's a nice exercise to do that, and a great alternative to a New Year's resolution.
Yeah. So one of the things, I got to back up just a little bit. I hear you talk and hear this passion behind what you're doing. And, you talk about clarity, consistency, discipline. Do you think your passion is one of the keys, the passion behind that for leadership and bettering yourself and the people around you and the humanity in total? Do you think that passion that really gets you going in the morning is kind of like that fuel behind it?
I mean, maybe this is how I'm wired, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I will tell you, I'm a lot more excited and enthusiastic and happy because I am using my talents to their highest and best use, right? So, I mean, if you're out of alignment, your energy level is going to be lower. You're going to feel crappy, because you're just I'm just going through the motions. I don't want to live my life going through the motions. I spent, a few decades kind of doing other things. Yes. So, I mean, I feel like what you're getting, what you see is what you get with me always. So if I was upset, you would know. but I'm generally wired to be a happy person. And because I truly am happy and I really like what I'm doing and believe in what I'm doing, this isn't a show. This isn't a facade. I mean,
Yes.
like I said, like I practice what I preach, and, you know, maybe I'm not for everyone, and that's okay too. But generally, you know, I do want to help. You know, inspiring transformation is my why. I want to have a positive impact. I think about legacy. I'm old enough where it's like, I know the world isn't about me. You know, it's like, so, you know, I would say, yeah, that definitely plays a part. And, you know, if people respond to that good energy, then that gives me even more, you know, so.
Well, I think
go ahead.
Just one second, just the clarity, consistency, and discipline. One of the things I see in that, I just don't think you have the energy unless you have the fuel behind it, like you do, because you can, just like you said before, I can have clarity and this is what I need to be doing consistently and do the discipline, but you just don't have that extra piece that comes through in your work. And it doesn't matter what kind of work you're doing.
Well,
but it's so cool to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not feeling it, then maybe you're not clear on what you really want.
Yes.
You know, so I mean, you might have to go back and revisit that too. And, you know, because oftentimes we think we know what we want.
Yep.
And it's not really what we want if we dig a little deeper. So, you know, you can't be, it's not all, you know, look, I'm like a positive person, but it's not all rainbows and unicorns in my world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have crap I got to deal with on a daily basis, just like every other human being. But, you know, I choose, right? I choose to have a certain mindset. I choose to show up in the world because I feel like, you know, I want to add goodness. I want to add positivity. I want to be intentional with the energy that I put out there, because God knows, especially on social media, there's plenty of divisiveness and negativity and people tearing each other down. I don't want any part of that. I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm
awesome.
Doing the inverse of that. You know, I want to cheer people on, and I'm genuinely excited with my clients and my friends do something. It's like, it's that, you know, the difference between sort of the scarcity mindset versus abundance, right? I'm not talking all woo woo, but just generally, it's like, there's enough for everyone. You know, you don't have to get defensive. You know, just like, you know, you do you. I'll do me.
You. This is so good, Amy. So guys, you're just getting a taste. And what I absolutely love, you know, there's a lot of folks that can create content, Amy. And what I love, what you know, like you just said, Damon, backing up a little bit, you know, you are a coach, like you are firm. You're like, you know, niche, you know, you're encouraging your clients to stay in their lane, stay in their strike zone. We're big baseball fans, you know, hit those home runs, accept those strikeouts. As you're saying, you know, you put out that one post, you think you're going to crush it, and vice versa. Let's talk about momentum. Okay. So now you're writing all sorts of content. So again, guys, she's on Forbes 5 times a month. I can't even imagine. I was talking to a group about like putting out 1 article a month, and I'm like, how are you going to do that? So 5 articles on Forbes. So that's one audience. You have your Illuminate Me, your other newsletter, and you just started, you're like 3 weeks into momentum right here on LinkedIn. 15,000 subscribers already on your newsletter here on LinkedIn. Talk about momentum, what this word means to you, why it's so important, and why are you putting this newsletter out?
Well, I'll start with the name. Okay, so momentum. Momentum is my word of the year for 2022. And I mentioned already that I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. So what I do instead is I always choose a word to guide me for the year ahead, right? It becomes my North Star. I'm a visual person, so I have it on my whiteboard. I have it, you know, I create a graphic around it. And the 2021's word was illuminate, right? And so, and I created a newsletter called Illuminate Me because I wanted to be action oriented. Illuminate, it has many different meanings. It has, you know, but it's really about sharing and shining a light, and it very much aligned with who I am and what I was feeling. Momentum, I maybe one of the few folks who had actually a really great professional year last year and the year prior. I've actually been able to kind of do well. And so I'm happy about that. But I never want to take it for granted. I don't want to get complacent. And the idea of maintaining and building momentum seemed to be the perfect sort of word for me for this year. It's sort of like, okay, you've done this, but what else? I want to keep growing. I want to keep challenging myself. It'd be very easy to just sort of kind of go, hey, let's coast. We're good. Right. But that won't sit right with me. I have to keep doing it. It's scary sometimes to put yourself out there to try new things. And I will be trying some new things. One of it was like doing a LinkedIn newsletter, which I know to people go, well, she's a writer. Why is that scary? Well, because I'm still like, oh my God, what are people going to say? You still have that sort of, bit of like seed of fear in you. So, momentum is about building. And that, again, comes back to this idea of that clarity, consistency, and discipline, right? It's like, keep going, keep doing it. And, there's always momentum when you have that mindset of like, I consider myself a lifelong learner, right? Growth mindset, where it's like, I'm super curious. Like, that's one of the best things I think trait that I have is the curiosity, because I'm genuinely curious about people, what makes them tick, what, motivates them, what scares them. Like, if I hadn't been a film major or doing the writing, it'd probably be psychology, just because people fascinate me,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's that curiosity, and then it's like, okay, well, why? How can we get better? Why do we do the things we do? And I love, so I read a lot, I read a lot. I watch, documentaries and videos and movies and all sorts of things, and listen to podcasts and all the stuff. There's a lot of information because there's always something that we can be learning. So momentum is about, taking positive forward action, right? And it doesn't come in huge leaps, but it's going to come in those little steps taken again and again and again and again. That's how you maintain momentum. And so when I put together my LinkedIn newsletter, it was really around that idea. So I share, an article with actionable things that people can do. And part of my momentum newsletter on LinkedIn also is a bonus. I'm like, oh, you know what? If they get this on a Friday, I can link to all my content from that earlier week. So you get links to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday's content as well to kind of keep it going.
Yeah. And then your newsletter on Sunday is Illuminate Me. And it's a different message that you're putting out on Sundays. Right?
So Sunday's newsletter is a Substack newsletter, still free. But it's similar content, but you'll get more Amy-ness, right? It's and you're going to have a few personal stories and things, but I promise I weave it together in such a way that you're still going to get some actionable things to take away, right? It'll be it might have a random headline that'll be like, what is that about? But I'll show stories. I'm real. It's like what happened, whatever. And then there'll be something actionable. And then I will typically at the end of that, because it comes out on Sunday mornings, I'll link to my latest Forbes article that I share publicly on Monday. So it all sort of feeds each other.
That's cool.
Man, so Amy, oh my God, I could listen to you all day, man. I mean, this is just so phenomenal.
It's fun.
You are, and I appreciate your humility, and I agree with that. The influencer word, please accept, you are truly a gift. You are a blessing to literally, and I know you know this, literally thousands of people are out there enjoying your messages. One more title I wanted to share, and I might butcher this a little bit, but 7 questions to ask yourself to develop grit. And so like somehow, some way, like you really have perfected your craft, whether God-given talent or whatever, of putting out these positive messages that people want to see. You've really, your headlines are captivating. It's like, man, I have to read this, and they're fun. They're snarky. They are powerful. They are helpful. And it's just Amy, right? It's all about just Amy. Amy, I know I could keep you here all day. I know you're super busy. Man, this was this was so good. Here's my last question for you.
Okay.
And I'll probably say this like 5 times, but anyway, hopefully I won't. But anybody out there, so like, again, we work with manufacturers who are like, finally, in the past, like, we don't even need a website. We go to trade shows, sales reps on the road. We this whole content thing. Everybody's life changed, right? So people are intentionally doing content. They are podcasting. They are putting things out there. It's a little bit scary taking that leap of faith, right? Okay. So for folks that are out there, they have a podcast on their radar. Maybe let's talk about that future letter to themselves. Okay. That future letter says, hey man, why don't you get out there and like blog just once a month? How about start a podcast or do a video, but so on and so forth. Go back to 2011, Amy. What advice do you have for that person out there they have a story to share, but maybe they're just a little fearful, a little scary, hitting that submit button for that first time? What advice do you have for folks out there to get their story out there?
Well, first of all, know you're not alone. Everybody feels that same
Yeah.
sense of fear,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's scary to put a piece of yourself out there. Make no mistake, when you are sharing sort of your insights or your, experiences, yeah, that is a piece of you. And it should be personal because it's you, there's only one you, and that your perspective what makes it magic, right? So I would say, know you're not alone. Push past your fear and just start anyway.
Yeah.
Start small. I mean, I swear the hardest is that first, the first time you post and you're thinking, oh my gosh, the world's going to end. And then you're waiting. Is anyone going to comment? Then we're going to like
you get
it?
zero likes, not even a like.
And
nothing.
then, just keep doing it so people know. But I think the important thing is too, is, know who your audience is, who are you trying to reach, and then go where they are. Right. So my clients are all B2B. So they're, people, their customers, their audiences, the talent they're trying to find, the partners are all on LinkedIn primarily. Mm-hmm. So that's where they choose to, put stuff out there. So if you are looking for, arguably, I mean, it's the professional network, right? That's what we talk about. It's not to say you couldn't find the same people on Twitter or maybe Instagram or TikTok if that's your thing. But I would say, it's a fairly safe bet to put something out there that's related to your industry, your thought leadership in that industry, how you do what you do, behind the scenes, whatever, on LinkedIn. So start there. It's a fairly kind audience. There are exceptions and trolls, but I would say start there and know this too. And I said this earlier, somebody needs to hear your story.
Yeah.
Somebody you don't even know yet, that you don't even realize needs to hear it, and you will help them. So if not for you, do it for someone else, because, and that might set you over that hump and get you past it, is that you're doing this. It is a service to others when you share your value with other people and you share your stories.
Moment of silence. We're not going to say a word for a minute. Let's just take that in. All right, guys. Friday, we're coming into time. Amy, yeah. Oh my gosh, it's
incredible.
You are such a this is like the fastest hour, Damon. Like I could go an hour right now. So this was so phenomenal.
Well, the thing I can feel what I read. I can feel it coming from you now. And I mean, and this is the thing that I love about reading your stuff, and it's so great to get to talk to you here too, because you can feel your passion, you can feel that energy, and you can feel that. And I think that if people, when they read something or they think about something and they're thinking about trying to develop content, just use your feelings. Right. And if it feels like that to you, just let it go. And you do such a good job of that. I'm just enthralled by it when I read.
Thank you. Well, and then you said something that I would like to remind people of too. If it sounds like me, write the way you speak, right?
Yes.
You don't have to take on some error and academic or whatever. If the whole point of putting content out there is to connect with others and communicate, and you're going to do that if you just write the way that you speak. I mean, sure, grammar, all that, but use the voice that you have, because that's unique to you, and that's what connects you to people, offline. So use that same voice and that same tone in your writing.
Awesome.
Amy, all right, everybody out there, how about a little standing ovation for our dear friend Amy, just Amy in her luxurious office, right, Amy? Yes. Oh, right, I'm hanging out in my basement. So, Amy, let's wrap up on this. So, guys, please follow Amy. Check out her Forbes articles. They are off the charts. They are phenomenal. Follow her on any social, obviously here, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you want it, wherever you hang out with Amy. Sign up for her newsletter. Boy, you would be so grateful, so thankful. You want momentum. If you're looking for momentum this year, and if nothing else, for folks that are just getting on LinkedIn and like maybe your audience is a little bit small, and I always tell folks, you know what? Find someone like Amy who is super active, because the folks that are hanging out on Amy's and her tribe that are posting, those are the types of folks that you want, high quality professional people, engaging, funny, snarky, moving the needle. We're all in this together. So Amy, God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. I am so honored to spend this time with you today. We are so blessed to have you on the show. So, man, we got to have you back. This was so
cool. I would love that. Thank you, guys. It did go fast. Sorry if I was like jabber.
Oh my God.
No, great.
I'm going to delete, Damon, I'm going to go back. If we edit this, I'm going to delete everything I talked about. It's just Amy. Nobody cares about us. Keep on your Amy. So, all right, guys, let's close out on this. If you aren't inspired, if you aren't motivated, if you aren't striving for momentum from this conversation, man, we need to have a one-on-one with you and Amy because we need to get you into shape. So guys, go out there, be like, what an inspirational story here. Get out there, keep crushing it. People need to hear your story. Get just fired up. So guys, we have a great week coming next week. Damon, we're back on Monday with our Manufacturing Monday Motivation conversation. We'll be back here on LinkedIn Live. Guys, sign up for Amy's newsletter. She has a killer week ahead of you coming up. Guys, have an awesome, awesome weekend. God bless you. Damon, take it away, brother.
Wow, I don't know how to follow this up, but thanks so much. Thanks so much, everyone in the comments. They were rolling, Amy. If you haven't seen the comments, they're just going. And Curt and I, so blessed to have you on today. Thanks so much. We're going to be back again next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks for having me, guys.